Greetings, my fellow freedom loving sovereign thinkers. LLP's News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful Swampy Meadow, South Florida. And today's day is Thursday, June 27, 2019. So let us begin. Thank you for tuning in, my friends. Warm and beautiful day in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. On our stash located at 109 Southwest 2nd Avenue. In the heart of the Himmershey district of the city I addressed aforementioned, adjacent with Revolution Live in America's backyard. Well, it looks like they had some audio feedback issues or audio signal issues at the first Democratic debate for 2020. People looking for their upcoming Lord and Savior. Please, I need someone to guide me to the light. I don't know. I need someone to hold my hand. Oh, yeah. Politics as usual, you can say? Absolutely. Well, speaking of that, I'll be doing mainly a few things here on like foreign policy. And I got a couple more goodies. So, let's like a little bit mellow here as well. Alright, so enough of the small talk here. Let's just begin with ConsortiumNews.com. And is mainly here, it's about... One moment here, my friends. Just trying to do a little quick adjustments. At least I know I won't get any freezing. Yeah, awesome. This came from ConsortiumNews.com. And this was here. It's interesting because Trump's underwhelming deal for Palestine and the Gulf monarchies, complicated ties with Israel. Ooh. Alright. Giorgio Cafario gauges the shortcoming of the U.S.-backed Peace to Prosperity Summit in Bahrain, this week. The U.S.-backed two-day Peace to Prosperity Summit in Bahrain on Tuesday and Wednesday was designed to advance Trump's administration's vision for resolving the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, but without any significant Palestinian representation at the summit, as well as the absence of any Israeli government officials. The gathering was ultimately a little more than face-saving effort on the White House part, following 2 years of administration futile and peacemaking efforts. The conference is understood to have laid the foundation for the deal of the century. Details have yet to be released, although the White House claims it will unveil the plan following Israel's election in September. Yet some details have leaked, the leading Palestinian Authority to declare it dead on arrival. Virtually all Palestinian factions are united in opposition to it. Challenge was a 40-page proposal put out earlier this month by the White House, which used terms investment and financing a dozen of times, yet never once mentioned occupation. Dan Kurtzer, who previously served as Washington's ambassador to Israel and Egypt, is now a professor of Middle East Policy Studies at Princeton University, tweeted, "I will give this so-called plan a C from an undergraduate student. The authors of the plan clearly understand nothing." And it says it right there. And it says here, it looks like a C minus according to the tweet here. Alright. And just keep on going. The workshop began in Bahrain, with President Trump's advisor and son-in-law Jared Kushner, who was a Bilderberg attendee to be exact, delivering a speech in which he unveiled a $50 billion economic package intended to unleash the Palestinians' potential as well as help develop neighboring Lebanon and Jordan. Kushner referred to a bustling tourist center in Gaza, without acknowledging Israel's siege on a coastal strip in a dire humanitarian crisis in a blockading Gulf. IMF, or International Monetary Fund Director Christine Lagarde, spoke about applying lessons from Mozambique to Palestine, Steve Schwarzman, as an American billionaire whose personal wealth exceeds Palestine's annual GDP, advised the Palestinians to follow the model of Singapore. The U.S. ambassador to Israel, David Freeman, hailed the workshop as an attempt to jumpstart the Palestinian economy and improve the quality of life of Palestinians. Unrealistic and disingenuous. Undeniably, the White House plans for resolving the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Oh, sorry about that. Right there, cool. Unrealistic as they are, disingenuous. Without ongoing conflict and no clearly defined borders, it is at best naive to imagine the occupied Palestinian territories fostering a climate that is ripe for foreign investment. Building a tourism sector and stimulating vibrant economic growth under the occupation are also unrealistic. Whereas Kirshner sought to first discuss the economic dimensions of the Palestinian problem, while saving meetings over the political ones for later. He fails to understand how Palestine's economic crises are linked to politics, but simply the Palestinians will not be able to achieve economic development through some foreign-driven technocratic plan without finding a solution to the political issues at the heart of the conflict. The Palestinian view is that the White House is simply trying to liquidate their cause by buying them off with foreign money. Moreover, no experts believe that the Trump administration has a political or diplomatic capital to serve as a credible mediator between the Palestinians and Israel. The White House has absolutely no goodwill among Palestinians, particularly in the aftermath of the administration formally recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital and slashing funding for the United Nations Relief and Works Agency. At first, the U.S. administration to officially reject the two-state solution as a basis for resolving the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, the current White House represents an opportunity for Israel to cement its colonization of territorial land in NX during 1967. As such, the, quote, deal of the century, unquote, is about consolidation of Israel's occupation of Palestinian land and a way toward establishing a second homeland for Palestinians in Jordan and or Egypt. The Israeli UN ambassador opinion piece, the New York Times, which called for a Palestinian surrender and was published just before the Bahrain summit kicked off. Oh, I'll assume we'll just use a propaganda tool and we'll buy it. Essentially summed up both the Israeli government and the Trump administration's views on the Palestinian question. The GCC-Israel ties. Nonetheless, although the summit did not raise important questions about Palestinian-Israeli relations, it raised some about Gulf Cooperation Council, or GCC, member states, and Israel's gradual normalization of ties. That this summit was held in Bahrain was not a major surprise, considering that the Archipelago Kingdom has led the GCC in terms of moving toward normalization of relations with Israel. Indeed, Bahrain's openness to closer relations with the Jewish state was displayed on September 2017 with Prince Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa attended a multinational event in Los Angeles where two American rabbis stated that the King of Bahrain had voiced his opposition to the Arab League's economic boycott of Israel. As the Peace of Prosperity workshop began, the Bahraini Crown Prince welcomed delegates with a message that called the Bahrain capital Manama the Gulf's most religious, diverse city, and reversed its tiny Jewish community. Notably, Bahrain's former Jewish ambassador to Washington, Hardar Ezra Abraham Nonu, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, attended the summit. But much like the dynamics which have brought other GCC member states closer to Israel, a mutual perception of Iran as a threat is at the heart of the Bahrain's interest in establishing warmer ties with Tel Aviv. Yet for Bahrain and other Arabian Peninsula monarchies, until the Palestinian issue is resolved, prospects for moving toward a full normalization of relations will remain complicated. Whereas Kuwait stands as the only country in the GCC that principally rejects this trend of Gulf states moving in the direction of normalizing ties with Israel, the GCC's only semi-democracy. Thus, this firm pro-Palestinian stance partially reflects pressure from Kuwaiti public opinion. For other states in the Arabian Peninsula that are far less democratic, especially the absolute monarchies, public opinion is less relevant to foreign policy decision-making, but all main statesmen and all statesmen in the Arab world are aware that appearing too close to Israel risk making them targets. It appears that the Gulf states that participated in this workshop are keen to maintain their links to Israel, which are vibrant in the domains of private enterprise, yet maintain low profiles for political reasons. Also, at the time in which the Trump administration continues applying maximum pressure on Iran, officials in Manama, Abu Dhabi, and Riyadh find themselves in the same boat as their Israeli counterparts in terms of backing the White House aggressive anti-Iranian agenda. Unquestionably, the summit reinforced the message that most in the GCC remain interested in moving toward warmer relations with Israel. There's a general desire in the Gulf to see conflict between Palestinians and Israelis come to an end. Yet, as The Economist put it, this summit was an underwhelming start to the ultimate Israeli-Palestinian deal, which has no chance of being struck through American mediation, so as long as the U.S. is so one-sided in this conflict. Exactly. So it's interesting there, because the way it was displayed on this article, and like trying to like, hey, we'll just give you, you consider this to be a bribe, which is true. Palestinians want their own Palestinian people want their own nation, want their own self-governance. Nothing wrong with that. And that's why there's a lot of questions too about the whole, revolution and so forth that became the State of Israel. The UN approved, of course. And rank and file, the non-combatants as a whole, they got the short end of the stick. The rank and file, even the Palestinians that are Jewish, they got shafted too, man. You don't hear about that. But it sounds like more of like a public-private enterprise when you examine it, and having the U.S. want to like buy, like, hey, we'll give you this, this, and this, you'll be okay. But that's more like a slap in the face. We'll just sugarcoat it, give a pacifier. But like I said, even Jared Kushner, he's a Israeli asset based on his friendship with Bibi. And it's interesting here with some of the comments. Is one guy, Eddie. It doesn't matter what the Israeli think. The U.S. has killed and caused to be killed more Arabs in the last few years than all the Jews in Palestine. There's what Sally Snyder has to say. Here's an interesting look at John Bolton's three-state solution in the Middle East. There's a blog on that. You probably got that from. It says here, for a man who did whatever he could to avoid fighting the war, he seems to love the concept. Yeah, throw his old bag of pus on the front line. So, so very usurp and trying to benefit the greater Israel project as well, which is, in my view, that's what I see on this deal. I said we just got to butt out. Hey, align with none, trade with all. The founding fathers create that concept. And you got the government of Israel trying to dictate to the world how to think, including the United States. Hey, give them the big middle finger with all due respect. Yeah, to me, the deal is a monument, is a rhetorical deception, in my view. And do it honorably. That's how I look at it. Yeah, everyone should spiritually prosper. But if you're going to use peace and prosperity, just go there, don't just deal with it. Nah, I have to disagree. But especially get the IMF involved. Yeah, another one world order institution. Yeah, very Orwellian indeed, globalist indeed. So that's my intake on this in this aspect, on the subject. So let's hit this next one here. I know it's been talked about the whole color revolution in Hong Kong. It says here, U.S. color revolution struggles in Hong Kong. Tony Carlucci from New Eastern Outlook, from Land Destroyer. Good site. It says here, the Western media has been boasting over recent protests in Hong Kong. Western headlines have claimed the protests have rattled Beijing's leadership. The protests have been organized to obstruct Hong Kong's elected government from moving forward with an extradition bill. A bill would further integrate Hong Kong's legal system, that of the mainland China, allowing suspects to be sent to the mainland, Taiwan, or Macau to face justice for crimes committed anywhere in the Chinese territory. The protests oppose the extradition bill as a wider mean of opposing Hong Kong's continued reintegration with China, arguing that the one country, two systems term imposed by the birth upon Hong Kong's return under Chinese sovereignty in 1997 must be upheld, uprooting the last vestiges of British imperialism. The story of Hong Kong is one territory violently seized by the British Empire from China in 1841, being controlled as a colony for nearly 150 years and begrudgingly handed over to China in 1997. The one country, two system conditions imposed by the British were a means of returning Hong Kong to China in theory, but in practice maintaining Hong Kong as an enduring outpost of Western influence within Chinese territory. The West's economy and military power in 1997 left Beijing with little choice but to agree to the terms. Today, the Anglo-American international order is fading, with China, now the second largest economy on earth and poised to overtake the U.S. at any time. With economic and military power now on China's side, it has incrementally uprooted the vestiges of British colonial influence in Hong Kong. The extradition bill being the latest example of this unfolding process. Yeah, you can thank the Rothschilds for that too, allegedly speaking. Like for grooming up China, the government of that, to be exact. Beijing has reclaimed Hong Kong through economic and political means. Projects like the recent completed Hong Kong high-speed rail link and the Hong Kong Zhuhai Macao Bridge have helped increase the number of mainlanders, laborers, visitors, and entrepreneurs traveling to, living in, and doing business with Hong Kong. With them come mainland values, culture, and politics. Hong Kong's elected government is now composed of a majority of the openly pro-Beijing parties and politicians. They regularly and easily defeated Hong Kong's so-called Pan-Democratic Independence Party during the election. It is reflected if it is the elected pro-Beijing government of Hong Kong that has proposed a recent extradition bill to begin with, a fact regularly omitted in Western coverage of the protests against the bill. The U.S. color revolution masquerades as popular opposition. Unable to defeat the bill legislatively, Hong Kong's pro-Western opposition has taken to the streets with the help of the Western media spin. The illusion of popular opposition to the extradition bill and Beijing's growing influence over Hong Kong is created. What is not only omitted but actively denied is the fact that the opposition's core leader, parties, organizations, and media operations are all tied directly to Washington, D.C. via the National Endowment for Democracy, NED. Our corporate foundations like Open Society Foundation, George Soros. The Hong Kong opposition has already been exposed as U.S. sponsored. This includes the entire core leadership of 2014 so-called Occupy Central protests, also known as the Umbrella Revolution. Western media has portrayed recent anti-extradition bill protests as a continuation of the Umbrella protests, with many of the same organizations, parties, and individuals leading and supporting them. The Western media has attempted to dismiss this in the past. The New York Times in 2014 article titled "Some Chinese Leaders Claim U.S. and Britain Are Behind Hong Kong Protests" would claim protest leaders said they had not received any funding from the United States government or nonprofit groups affiliated with it. Chinese officials choose to blame hidden foreign policies, they argued, in part because they find it difficult to accept that so many ordinary people in Hong Kong want democracy. Like they want one enslavement. They want some enslavement as well. Oh yeah, we'll have one form of enslavement. Democracy. Majority plus one. Okay, I'll be the law. Please. Yet, what the protest leaders claim is what is documented fact are two different things. The New York Times article itself admits that the National Endowment for Democracy, a nonprofit directly supported by Washington, distributed $755,000 in grants in Hong Kong in 2012, an additional $695,000 last year to encourage the development of democratic institutions. Some of that money was earmarked to develop the capacity of citizens, particularly the university students, to more effectively participate in the public debate and political reform. While the New York Times and Hong Kong opposition denies this funding has gone to protesters specifically, annual reports from organization opposition members belong to reveal that it has. And it says here, Hong Kong's opposition leader, U.S. support include Benny Tai, a law professor at the University of Hong Kong and a regular collaborator with the U.S. NED and NDI-funded Center for Comparative and Public Law, or CCPL, also of the University of Hong Kong. In the CCPL's 2006-2007 annual report, PDF since deleted, he was named as a board member at a position he has held at least as recently as last year. In CCPL's 2011 to 2013 annual report, it's deleted as well, PDF format, NED subsidiary, the National Democratic Institution, or NDI, is listed as having provided funding to the organization to design and implement an online model of universal suffrage portal where the general public can discuss and provide feedback and ideas which method of universal suffrage most suitable for Hong Kong. In CCPL's annual report for 2013-2014, same thing, deleted PDF, Tai is not listed as a board member, but is listed as participating in at least 3 conferences organized by CCPL and as heading at least one of CCPL's projects. At least one conference has him speaking side by side another prominent Occupy Central figure, Audrey Yu. The 2013-2014 annual report also lists NDI as funding CCPL's Design Democracy Hong Kong website. Joshua Wong. Yeah, they made a document about this guy when he was younger. Occupy Central leader and Central General of the Mesisto Party, while Wong and others have attempted to deny any links to Washington. Wong would literally travel to Washington once the protest concluded to pick up an award for his efforts from NED subsidiary Freedom House. Audrey Yu at me. The Civic Party chairwoman, who is in addition to speaking at the CCPL NDI function side by side with Benny Tai, is entwined with the U.S. State Department and its NDI elsewhere. She regularly attends forums sponsored by NED and a subsidiary NDI. In 2009, she was a featured speaker at an NDI-sponsored public policy forum hosted by SynergyNet, also funded by NDI. In 2012, she was a guest speaker at the NDI-funded Women's Center International Women's Day event hosted by Hong Kong Council of Women, or HKCW, who was initially funded by NDI. Wow. You'd be surprised, man. This is like amazing stuff here. Martin Lee, a senior leader of Occupy Central Movement, the lead organizer physically led protest marches. He also regularly delivered speeches, according to the South China Morning Post, before leading the Occupy Central Movement in Hong Kong. He and Anson Chan were in Washington, D.C. before the NED soliciting U.S. assistance video. During the talk in Washington titled Why Democracy in Hong Kong Matters, Lee and Chan would lay out the entire Occupy Central narrative about independence from Beijing and a desire for self-governance before an American audience representing a foreign government. Lee, Chan, and their entire opposition are ironically very much dependent on NED would eventually release a statement claiming that it has never aided Lee or Chan, nor were Lee or Chan leaders of the Occupy Central movement. But by 2015, after Occupy Central was over, NED subsidiary Freedom House will not only invite Benny Tai and Joshua Wong to Washington, but also Martin Lee in the event, acknowledging the three as Hong Kong democracy leaders. All three would take to the stage with their signature yellow umbrellas representing their roles in the Occupy Central protests, and of course, exposing any lies denying Lee's leadership role in the protests. Additionally, multiple leaked U.S. diplomatic cables, which there's links for us, folks, there's 3 of them, indicate that Martin Lee has been in close contact with the U.S. government for years and regularly asked for and received various forms of aid. Other opposition leaders have been literally caught meeting secretly with U.S. diplomats, including Hong Kong opposition leader Edward Leung and Ray Wang in 2016. Delaying the inevitable. Despite the supposed size of the protest, it should be remembered that some of the protests in 2014 and 2016 were also large and disruptive, yet no concessions from either Hong Kong's elected government or Beijing. The extradition bill was passed, if for now, in the near future, the process of reintegration it represents will continue moving forward as well. The longer the U.S. wastes time, resources, and energy on tired tactics like sponsored bombs and political subversion, the less time, resources, and energy it will have to adjust favorably to the new international order that will inevitably emerge despite Washington's efforts. During this year, Shangri-La Dialogue, an annual forum discussing Asia-Pacific security, the U.S. would reiterate its designs to encircle and contain China. For an added twist, the U.S. would include nations like UK and France in its plans, specifically because of Washington's failures to cobble together any sort of alliance of actual Asia-Pacific states. China grows influence in its style of international relations built on investment, infrastructure development, and non-interference contrasts so favorably with Washington and Europe's coercive neo-imperial foreign policy that, despite a century head start, the West now finds itself being left behind. The protests in Hong Kong are organized to delay the inviolable end to the West's primacy over Asia, and in particular its attempt to dominate China. In the process, these protests will continue to expose Washington's methods of fueling political subversion and the Western media's role in deceitfully promoting and defending it. Compromising similar operations being carried out elsewhere across Asia Pacific and around the world. It's more of foreign entanglements. We should butt out of it. Our tax dollars should not. The American tax dollars should not be involved in these areas as a form of redistribution of wealth, like foreign aid. Yeah, I talked to the people who are like pro supporting foreign aid to Israel, and they hate socialism. Go figure that one out, right? Same thing with this as well. So when you hear about, socialism sucks and all that, and you got these individuals who say it's okay to put money in these organizations and being funded to these groups that are like infiltrators and so forth. To me, it's like, come on, stop the extorting games. The people in that area got to decide what their fate is. And don't get me wrong, I'm not going to be crazy about China's government either. So, but one thing they're doing, hey, they're trying to groom their way of grooming other nations up, build relationships and so forth. That's how they're going to do it, because when you use the same old song and dance for over at least 150 years plus, it's gonna burn you, and the people will figure it out. Now technology, shoot, it'd be a lot worse. So, called blowback. I gotta say, folks, read the book from Chalmers Johansson, Blowback. You will be surprised. I say, hey, let's get out of these color revolutions. We don't need to tell other countries what to do, because you don't like it when other nations try to influence our way of life. Correct? Absolutely. I'm just going to sign in here. It just really dawns on me, friends. It really does. However, it's just, so I was worried about garbage and BS, but this is a lot bigger than what it is. Ooh, cool. All right. So I got that. That's awesome. But it's a good, very good article. Always I prefer that to people. And the next one here came from the Rutherford Institute. Yes, I am a supporting member. So I do like to share John Whitehead's commentary. And this one came out here. It says, "How Evil Wins, the Hypocritical Double Standard of Political Outrage." And it came out on the 25th of June, so a couple of days ago. And it says here, she was asked what she had learned from the Holocaust. She said that 10% of any population is cruel no matter what, and that 10% is merciful no matter what, and that the remaining 80% could be moved in either direction. Kurt Vonnegut. Please spare me the media hysterics and the outrage of the hypocritical double standards of those whose moral conscience appears to be largely dictated by their political loyalties. Anyone who believes that injustices, cruelties, and vicious callousness of the U.S. government are unique to the Trump administration has not been paying attention. No matter what the team colors might be at any given moment, the playbook remains the same. The leopard has not changed its spots. Scrape off the surface layers, and you will find that the American police state that is continuing to wreak havoc on the rights of the people under the Trump administration is the same police state that wreaked havoc on rights of the people under the previous administration. Brace yourself. While we squabble over which side is winning this losing battle, a tsunami approaches. Case in point, in Charlottesville, Virginia, the home of Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration of Independence, champion of the Bill of Rights, and the nation's third president, city councilors in a quest for so-called equity have proposed eliminating Jefferson's birthday as a city holiday, which has been in the book since 1945, and replacing it in a day that commemorates the liberation of area slaves following the arrival of Union troops under General Philip Sheridan. What? Can we say the word blasphemy? Absolutely. In this way, while the populace wages over past injustice in the here and now continues to trample innocent lives underfoot. In Charlottesville, as the rest of the country, little is being done to stem the tide of institutional racism that has resulted in disproportionate numbers of black Americans being stopped, frisked, and shot and arrested in jail. Just recently, in fact, Phoenix police drew their guns, shot out profanities, assaulted, and threatened to shoot a black couple whose 4-year daughter allegedly stole a doll from a dollar store. The footage of the incident in which the cops threatened to shoot the pregnant young mother in the head in the presence of a couple's 1- and 4-year-old daughters is horrifying in every way. Tell me again, why is it more important to spend valuable political capital debating the birthdays of dead presidents rather than proactively working to put a stop to a government mindset that teaches cops it's okay to treat citizens of any color with brutality and blatant disregard to their rights? It doesn't matter that Phoenix and Charlottesville are 2,100 miles apart. The lethal practices of American police state are the same all over. No amount of dissembling can shield us from the harsh reality that the danger in our midst is poised by an entrenched government bureaucracy that has no regard for the Constitution, Congress, the courts, or the citizenry. We've got to get our priorities straight if we are to ever have any hope of maintaining any sense of freedom in America. As long as we allow ourselves to be distracted, diverted, occasionally outraged, always polarized, and content to view each other rather than the government as the enemy, we'll never manage to present a unified front against tyranny or government corruption and ineptitude in any form. Mind you, by government, I'm not referring to the high partisan two-year bureaucracy of the Republicans and Democrats. Rather, I'm referring to the government with a capital G. The entrenched deep state that is unaffected by elections, unaltered by populist movements, and has set itself beyond the reach of the law. This is a hidden face of government that has no respect for the freedoms of the citizenry. So stop with all the excuses and hedging and the finger pointing and pissing contests to which side can shout out, outblame, and outspew the other. Enough with the short and long-term amnesia that allows political sycophants to conveniently forget the duplicity, complicity, and mendacity of their own party while casting blame on everyone else. This is how evil wins. This is how freedom falls and tyranny rises. This is how good, generally decent people haven't allowed themselves to be distracted with manufactured crisis, polarizing politics, and fighting that divides the populace into warring us versus them camps, fail to take note of the looming danger that threatens to wipe freedom from the map and place us in all in chains. Anytime you have an entire nation so mesmerized by the antics of the political ruling class that they are obvious to all else, you better beware. Anytime you have a government that operates in the shadows, speaks in a language of force, and rules by fiat, you better beware. And anytime you have a government so far removed from its people as to ensure that they are never seen, heard, or heeded by those elected to represent them, you better beware. The world has been down this road before. As historian Milton Mayer recounts in his seminal book on Hitler's rise to power, they thought they were free. Most of us did not want to think about fundamental things they never had. That was no need to. Nazism gave us some dreadful fundamental things to think about. We were decent people and kept us busy with continuous changes and crises, and so fascinated by the machinations of the national enemies without and within, that we had no time to think about these dreadful things that were growing little by little all around us. We are no longer. So that's what we have to say there, and it goes here. We are no longer living the American dream. We're living the American lie. Indeed, Americans have been lied to so sincerely and insensibly, and for long by politicians of all stripes, who lie compulsively and without seeming remorse, that they've almost come to revert to lies trotted out by those in government over less palatable truths. The American people have become compulsive believers. Left-leaning Americans are determined to believe that the world has become a far more dangerous place under Trump, while white-leaning Americans are equally convinced that Trump has set us on a path to prosperity and security. Nothing has changed. The police state is still winning. We, the people, are still losing. In fact, the American police state has continued to advance at the same costly, intrusive, private sapping, constitution-defying, heartbreaking, soul-scorching, relentless pace under the tyrant-in-chief as it did of those who occupied the White House before him, Obama, Bush, Clinton, etc. Police haven't stopped disregarding the rights of citizens, having given the green light to probe, poke, pinch, taser, search, seize, strip, shoot, and generally mishandle anyone they see fit in almost any circumstance. With all the general blessings of the courts, America's law enforcement officials are no longer more servants of the people entrusted with the keeping the peace. Indeed, they continue to keep the masses corralled, under control, and treated like suspects and enemies and slaves rather than the citizens. SWAT teams haven't stopped crashing through doors and terrorizing families. Nationwide, SWAT teams continue to be employed to address an astonishingly trivial array of criminal activities or mere community nuisances, including angry dogs, domestic disputes, improper paperwork filed by an orchard farmer, and misdemeanor marijuana possession. With more than 80,000 SWAT team raids carried out every year on unsuspecting Americans for relatively routine police matters, and federal agencies laying claim to their own heavily armed law enforcement divisions, the incidents of botched raids and related casualties continue to rise. The Pentagon and Homeland Security haven't stopped militarizing and federalizing the police. Police forces continue to be transformed into heavily armed extensions of the military, complete with jackboots, helmets, shields, batons, pepper sprays, stun guns, assault rifles, body armor, miniature tanks, and weaponized drones. In training police to look and act like the military and use the weapon and tactics of war against American citizens, the government continues to turn the United States into a battlefield and we the people into enemy combatants. God bless the war on terror. Yay! Schools haven't stopped treating you people like hardcore prisoners. Schools districts continue to team up with law enforcement to create a schoolhouse to jail rock track by imposing a double dose of punishment for childish infractions, suspension or expulsion from school, accompanied by the arrest by the police and tripped to juvenile court. In this way, the paradigm of abject compliance to the state continues to be taught by example in the schools. Through school lockdowns where police and drug-sniffing dogs enter the classroom, and zero-tolerance policies that punish all offenses equally and result in young people being expelled for childish behavior. Think for me, big brother. Think for me. For-profit private prisons haven't stopped locking up Americans and immigrants alike at taxpayers' expense. States continue to outsource prison management to private corporations out to make a profit at taxpayers' expense. And how do you make a profit in the private industry? Have legislators pass laws that impose harsh penalties for the slightest non-compliance of order to keep prison cells full and corporate investors happy. This is why, my friends, I recommend everyone out there learn your rights under the state constitution, especially know about jury nullification. This will give you guys a couple things to look at. Censorship hasn't stopped. First Amendment activities continue to be pummeled, punched, kicked, choked, chained, and generally gagged all across the country. The reason for such censorship vary widely from political correctness, safety concerns, and bullying to national security and hate crimes, but the end result remains the same. The complete eradication of what Benjamin Franklin referred to as the principal pillar of a free government. The courts haven't stopped marching in lockstep with the police state. The courts continue to be dominated by technicians and statists who are deferential to authority, whatever government or business. Indeed, the Supreme Court's decision in recent years have most often characterized by an abject deference to government authority, military, and corporate interests. Government bureaucrats haven't stopped turning Americans into criminals. The average American now knowingly commits 3 felonies a day thanks to the overabundance of vague laws that render otherwise innocent activity illegal while reinforcing the power of the police state and its corporate allies. Well, any of those vague laws is repugnant to the Constitution, whether it's federal or state, is invalid, null and void. Wipe your rear ends with it and shred it to oblivion. Continue on here. The surveillance state hasn't stopped spying on Americans' communications, transactions, or movements. On any given day, whether you are walking through a store, driving your car, checking email, or talking to friends and a family on the phone, you can be sure that some government agency, whether it's your local police, a fusion center, the National Security Agency, or any of the government's many corporate partners, is still monitoring and tracking your every move. Vigilance is the key, my friends. Remember that. TSA hasn't stopped groping or ogling travelers under pretext of protecting the nation's infrastructure, roads, mass transit systems, water and power supplies, telecommunication systems, and so on, against criminals or terrorist attacks. The TSA task force, composed of federal air marshals, surface transportation security inspectors, transportation security officers, behavior detection officers, and explosive detention K-9 teams, continue to do random security sweeps of nexuses of transportation, including ports, railways, and bus stations, airports, ferries, and subways, as well as political conventions, baseball games, and music concerts. The sweep tactics include to use X-ray technology, pat-downs, and drug-sniffing dogs, among other things. And this is why there's a thing called nullification. The states and local authorities can say no. And the fact is this, my friends, many of the airports are city and county run. You don't really need the federal government to do these little things, okay? So I'm just giving you the rundown. So it's a road to centralization. That's what we're doing. Centralization is the road to tyranny. Congress hasn't stopped enacting doctrine laws such as the USA Patriot and the NDAA. These laws, which completely circumvent the rule of law and the constitutional rights of American citizens, continue to reorientate our legal landscape in such a way to ensure that martial law, rather than the rule of law, our U.S. Constitution becomes the map which we navigate life in the United States. The Department of Homeland Security hasn't stopped wasteful, growing, fear-mongering beast. Indeed, it is the agency that is notorious for militarizing police and SWAT teams, spying on activists, dissidents, and veterans, stockpiling ammunition, distributing license plate readers, contracting to build detention camps, tracking cell phones with stingray devices, carrying out military drills and lockdowns in American cities, using the TSA as an advanced guard, conducting virtual strip searches with full-body scanners, carrying out soft-target checkpoints, directing government workers to spy on Americans, conducting widespread spying networks using fusion centers, carrying out constitutional-free border control searches, which is totally illegal. The state and the local sheriffs can tell them to get out or have you arrested for trespassing. It can be done, folks. Funding citywide surveillance cameras and utilizing drones and other spy bots. The military-industrial complex doesn't stop profiting from endless wars abroad. America's expanding military empire continues to bleed country dry at the rate of more than $15 billion a month, or $20 million an hour. The Pentagon spends more than all 50 states combined spend on health, education, welfare, and safety. Yet what most Americans fail to recognize is that these ongoing wars have little to do with keeping the country safe and everything to do with enriching the military-industrial complex and taxpayer expense. The deep state shadow government hasn't stopped calling the shots behind the scenes, comprised of unelected government bureaucrats, corporations, contractors, paper pushers, and button pushers who are actually calling the shots behind the scenes. This government within a government continues to be the real reason we the people have no real control over our so-called representatives. Is every facet of the government that is no longer friendly to freedom and is working overtime to trample the Constitution underfoot and render the citizenry powerless in the face of government's power grabs, corruption, and abusive tactics. The American people haven't stopped acting like gullible sheep. In fact, many Americans have been so-called carried away by their rank-and-file partisan devotion to their respective political gods. I like that. Like the Democratic debates. We need someone to... I need to be told what to do. I need someone to hold my hand. I need someone to wipe my rear end and take a bath. Yeah, I'm being sarcastic, but that's that mindset they have. That they have lost sight of one thing that has remained constant in recent years. Our freedoms are steadily declining, and it doesn't matter whether it's government, whether it's Democrat or Republican at the helm, because the bureaucrat mindset on both sides of the aisle now seems to everybody the same philosophy of authoritarian government. So you can try to persuade yourself that you are free, that you still live in a country that values freedom, and that it is not too late to make America great again. But to anyone who has been paying attention to America's decline for the past 50 years, it will be just another lie. The German people chose to ignore the truth and believe the lie. They were not obvious to the horrors taking place around them. As historian Robert Galately points out, anyone in Nazi Germany who want to find out about the Gestapo, the concentration camps, and the campaign of discrimination and persecutions need only to read the newspapers. The warning signs were definitely there, blinking incessantly and like large neon signs. Still, Galately writes, the vast majority voted in favor of Nazism in spite of what they could read in the press and hear by word of mouth about the secret police, the concentration camps, official anti-Semitism, and so on. There is no gain away from the fact that at that moment, the vast majority of German people backed them. Half a century later, the wife of a prominent German historian, neither of whom were members of the Nazi Party, Oppin, says here, on the whole, everyone felt well, and there were certainly 8% who lived productively and positively throughout the time. We also had good years, we had wonderful years. In other words, as long as their creature comforts remained undiminished, as long as their bank accounts remained flush, as long as they weren't being discriminated against, persecuted, starved, beaten, shot, stripped, jailed, and turned to slave labor, life was good. Life is good in America, too. Life is good in America as long as you're not one of the 100 migrant children, including infants, toddlers, preschoolers, being detained in unsanitary conditions by U.S. Border Patrol without proper access to food and water, made to sleep on concrete floors, go without a shower for weeks on end, and only to brush your teeth once every 10 days. Life is good as you don't have to come face to face with a trigger-happy cop hyped up on a power of a badge, trained to shoot first and ask questions later, disposed to view people of color as a suspect class. Life is good in America as long as you are able to keep walking through life, cocooning yourself in political fantasies that depict a world in which your party is always right and everyone else is wrong. It's distracting yourself with the bread and circus entertainment that bears no resemblance to reality. Life is good in America as long as you got enough money to spare that you don't mind being made to pay through the nose for government's endless wars, subsidization of foreign nations, military empire, welfare state, roads to nowhere, bloated workforce, secret agencies, fusion centers, private prisons, biometric database, invasive technology, arsenal weapons, and every other budgetary line item that is contributing to the fast-growing wealth of a corporate elite at the expense of those who will barely make an ends meet. That is we, the 99%. Life is good for the privileged few, but as I clear in my book, Battlefield America, the war in the American people is getting worse by the day for the rest of us. That's right, my friends. When you have division, we are planning to be conquered. That's the name of the game, divide and rule. So this is why you always gotta look at these areas in the bigger picture. You gotta be vigilant towards your government. We're never supposed to trust them, period. And it doesn't matter what form of government it is. If you study the past, it's today's greatest teacher. If you say a police state's okay, and as long as you got your sports teams are winning the game, life is good. To me, that is meek and unmeritable. Always got a question: how come the American flags at these governmental buildings, including the courthouses, have the maritime law insignia which is golden ridges around the American flag? You know that breaches or contradicts Title IV of the United States codes on how the American flag should be how the American flag is supposed to be symbolized. Those golden ridges are null and void. It's the law of the sea. And come up, respect the flag. But I see these clowns out there, including our president, hugging a flag with the golden ridges. What do you mean, respect the flag? You're just respecting it, sir. And all you worshipers out there as well. They're just an example. Doesn't matter what side of the paradigm you're on, folks. You guys are look at the broader picture. You gotta build up to the police state. They say benefit. Go, how far, please? Truth, justice, and the good institution's way. Get me respect. It doesn't. You become a number. We all got to choose our battles wisely? Absolutely. It's going to be tough times? Of course. But if you're going to belly up, bend over, or use knee pads to these clowns, these tyrants, then you've just been numbered. You should brand yourself on what side of your wrist, brand yourself and go, yes, I'm the system, I'm the bitch's system. Don't worry, we've all been swindled one or the other, for my friends. I don't have all the answers either. But all of your rights are natural born. You're born to be sovereign, free individuals. That's it. Who cares what the corporate media has to say? And these trees as parasites. Benedict Arnold is more patriotic than these clowns I see right now. He was man enough to admit, hey, I take responsibility for my actions. These other douchebags you see on TV and the radio and these town meetings, their testicles are in their mouth. Even the women, too. I say that in plurality. The whole thing is this, my friends. When you learn about these things, the more you exercise it, the less you fear. People learn to be more self-contained. And you know what? You can say, you need me more, I need you. When the people fear the government, it's tyranny. When the government fears its people, that's freedom. Thomas Jefferson. And they want to get rid of that city holiday for some clown of an illegal war. Yeah, it was an unconstitutional war. And don't get me wrong. I always pay homage even to a lot of men in the Union Army, in the Union military, fought against the free the slaves. That was a belief system, including the 54 Massachusetts Brigade. I'm not going to condemn them. Even the Southern soldiers as well, the Confederacy, fought for states' rights, federal intervention, federal overreach. All you gotta do is read. You gotta learn all sides of the story and the subject. I know I'm phasing out, but actually what came to with the so-called illegal war, the 1871 Act, which the United States became a federal corporation. Title 28, Section 3002, subsection 15. I did a show on that. I think I'll say maybe around December 2013. I could be mistaken. Yeah, just look up the U.S. the U.S. The United States as a corporation. Maybe that should be the title, but yeah, look it up on my footnote on my archive. I know I've used this enough times on this. I don't know if I have it here. Times, but Lou Rockwell made something pretty damn cool, which I always admire his work. And one of the things he really mentioned was about government. I'll try to get this here. Hold on here, folks. But yeah, it's just very mind-blowing, to be exact. I should have it on my phone here. But yeah, I should have brought this out. Here's one right here. I'll read this to you. The sovereign of the people is never to be infringed or destroyed. TeknoAxe. Coxe. And here, by Thomas Paine. He who will not make his own liberty secure must guard even his enemy from oppression. For if he violates this duty, he establishes a precedent that will reach to himself. I remember I made that statement about what happened in Charlottesville. And people, I don't care about those, F those Nazis. You know what? You make that statement, you're a freedom hater. I don't give a damn what you think. Sometimes I call these people out. They're like, you know, but I don't care. Ridicule them, yeah. But try to support them being banned. If it happens to you, don't complain to me. See if I can find it here. I know I'm taking a little bit too long here. Forgive me, my friends. I should have done this originally. Let me just see if I have it. Oh my goodness, I don't think I have it here. Shoot! Oh, no, I don't. My, oh my, oh my. Yeah, I don't got it. Amazing. Amazing indeed. I don't got it. Yeah, I think I don't have it. No, I don't. Shoot. Let me see. Yeah, but the whole thing it says this. Government, our rights can never be changed or altered or abolished, but governments can. That's the bottom line. And that's why you always got to be vigilant towards these particular institutions, regardless of federal, state, or local. If they break their oath, if they promote something illegal or vote something unconstitutional, then they're oath breakers. You call it as you see it. So congratulations for being a proud oath breaker. Allah, Scott Israel, suspended sheriff from Broward County. All right, I know. I digressed. But do one more here. This one actually came from the Mind Unleashed. And it came out yesterday. It says here, Germans buy town's entire beer supply to drought Nazis out. A far-right music festival. And as it reads, who wrote this? Mandy Florick. And it says here, the majority of festivals are enjoyed by locals and tourists alike. But the same cannot be said for the recent Skald and Schubert, which is Sword and Shield Festival, the event in which held in the German town of Austerlitz attracted Nazi sympathizers like gnats to spoiled fruit. With the intent of preventing violence, a court imposed a ban on preventing attendees from purchasing alcohol. Local restaurants took it a step further, however, by buying all the beer from local supermarkets to ensure that the weekend was a long, dry one for far-right conservatives. Oh, why you call these far-right conservatives? Good grief. Get your facts right. Just call them tyrants. Whatever. But come on, these people. I don't know. I don't get. I just got this drives me crazy. It's like liberals. Oh, call them liberals. Jefferson was a liberal. All right. I'll continue on here. The BBC reports that in recent years, Austerlitz has struggled with far-right activism. For this reason, the population came forward to prevent fascist attendees from enjoying a warm weekend. Residents purchased more than 200 crates of beer from the local supermarket. The plan was devised in the week in advance. We want to draw the Nazis out. Austria's activist George Silent to the Bild newspaper. We thought if an alcohol ban is coming, we'll empty the shelves at the penny supermarket. A ban was also imposed ahead of the festival by a court in Dresden, East Germany. The court was to prevent violence from erupting. Deutsche Welle reports that on June 21st, police confiscated approximately 4,200 liters or 1,109 gallons of beer. An additional 200 liters were seized on Saturday during the festival. The force treated an image of the police officer seizing alcohol. And it shows it right there. The alcohol ban at the event site of the neo-Nazi meeting in Austerlitz has been consistently enforced by over forces since yesterday. The department wrote on Twitter, alcohol beverages are being taken off before entering the premises. Approximately 600 people attended the neo-Nazi festival, according to Newsweek. Numbers slightly dwindled. By the second night, in total, police dealt with 32 crimes, 16 of which were violations of assembly law, with 10 people allegedly displaying anti-constitutional organization. For us, it's important to send a message from Austria that there are people here who won't tolerate this, who say we have different values here. We're setting an example, which is not the image of a far-right concert, which dominates the media coverage, a local woman told the press. It's interesting there is sometimes, every place is different, but one thing I like is the people actually buying it. Get them where it hurts. No government intervention, but get them where it hurts. That's what I like. So I had to get a big kick out of it. Imagine if we do it to all the quacks. All these political charlatans. Just take all their stuff and like the hotels. Make sure all the hotels are booked just of all locals. That would be hilarious. So get them where it hurts. They do it in a free market basis. Okay, that's how we look at it. But you know what? Hey, the town still thought was right. I can't really condemn them. They say, hey, we don't like tyranny. You do it to everyone. Anyone's a tyrant, you treat them like they are garbage. That's why I put this in here. And that's really it. So that's all. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or something interesting you want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence to Quorum. Furthermore, I will leave all my footnotes, including social media sites, email addresses, on my Spreaker page. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.